Certainly. My name is Jay Fiset. I have been a lifelong entrepreneur, and I manage a variety of different brands, one of which is called Mastermind to Millions that I'm super excited about. Today, no. I have been on both sides of that about 5 times, actually. You know, it's interesting. Very young. So I always had my own businesses. I bought my first bicycle, I bought my first motorcycle, I bought my first car from entrepreneurial ventures. Sort of my first formal investment, and I think Dr. Tony would appreciate this, was I was investing in mutual funds through a company called Investors Group, $100 a month when I was 16 years old. I just liked the idea of having money. And I wasn't really sure about this whole definition of freedom and all of those pieces, but it was abundantly clear to me that if I had more money, I had more choices, and I was not going to be limited in my choices. My definition of financial freedom is this, is that my recurring / passive income exceeds my monthly expenses or annual expenses sometimes in terms of how that goes for us, and that I wake up in the morning, I get to decide, do I want to go play with my kids or do I want to actually do some work? And I can tell you a ton of funny stories about different experiences at different times. So the very first time was $7,500. The irony to that was I actually discovered I had been free for about 2 years prior, but hadn't moved a couple of assets around and paid off a couple of things. And I had that discovery actually playing the cash flow game of Robert Kiyosaki's, which is really funny because I had read the book and I hated the book and threw it away. Probably should have finished reading the book. So I was continuing to service debt while I had an asset that all I needed to do was to sell the asset, pay off the debt, we were clear. Well, at the beginning, I thought I was going to sort of retire. So my wife and I, Corey, we were looking at land in Mexico. We were going to build a retreat center. She could have pool boy, I'd have pool girl, margaritas, massages. It's all going to be fantastic. So we, you know, I think I harbored that fantasy of what it was going to mean, right? But really, what transpired was we traveled a lot. I stopped working for about 2 months, and at the end of 2 months, I actually felt like poking my eye out with a fork. And it was, I must create. And it was a very early and important lesson, and I came back and we created some pretty fantastic stuff. You know what, the very first time, and this surprised me even then, and I think it's funny now, is that I never, and this is just a small thing, but I just never ever looked at the right hand side of a menu. Didn't do it. It's like I ordered what I wanted, when I wanted, how I wanted, regardless. And that, it sounds like a small thing, but for years it was like, you know. So to me, there was that. I certainly felt more comfortable giving more time to self-care. You know, at that stage of the game, you know, I ran my first marathon and, you know, trained 5 hours a week. It's more than that, actually, in terms of when we got to the marathon. We got started at a 5K and went up. And my wife and I, at that stage of the game, certainly played more. We played in real estate, we played together, we played traveling. It was a cool experience. So in Canada, there's a band called Bare Naked Ladies, and they have a song called "If I Had $1 Million." And I just remember this one day, and I don't know what I was doing. I was just heading out the door, and Corey's on her computer at the island and singing "If I Had $1 Million," and then there's this little pause in the chorus. She goes, "Huh, wait a second, I do." And we both were like, "Ah!" And off I went, and that was that. But it was. How do I put it? It was an experience of levity that I just genuinely appreciated, but it wasn't really what I thought it was going to be. And I think that's one of those important pieces of, you know, I thought I was going to relax more and take it easy more and all those sorts of things, but truthfully, it's just not, that's not lined up with who I really am. It certainly provided more choices, but my surprise in it was that I must work for my sanity. And not about money, but I must work for my sanity. So I'd invested a ton of money in a single investment that had been doing stunningly well. And the investment went for shit. And in fact, the gentleman who ran the investment hung himself in his basement while his 2-year-old daughter was sleeping and his wife was out getting groceries. And that was a pretty epic, wake-up call. And I remember having conversations with my dear wife, because it represented the liquid assets that we had on planet Earth. We still have a ton of real estate and sort of things, but it was the liquid assets we had. That was that. And we really weren't certain what that was going to be. But interestingly enough, that experience, and I guess this is where I have developed more faith over the years. So through that experience, which at the time felt crushing, make no mistake about it. Inside of 24 months from that, the $1 million that disappeared was replaced with $4 million from writing my book and leveraging that particular lesson in a kind of pretty cool entrepreneurial method that brought freedom back again, and then some, in a much more sound and enjoyable manner. So I guess for me, part of this lesson and why, I talk with people and it's like, oh, you were free and now you're not. It's like, for a while, it's like, it really, I guess I just have greater faith that, number one, I know what it is. I know what it likes to live. I know what it's like to live on both sides. I'm willing to make short-term, sometimes sacrifices to my personal freedom for the well-being of my family and my children. And it's sort of all good. Like, who I am doesn't change on either side. Let's be clear about this. Which do I prefer? Freedom. I have a plan and I'm working towards freedom again. That will always be, like, if ever either by circumstance, situation, or poor investment or choice, I become not free, it isn't like, oh frick, I'm not free. It's like, okay, and now we got to get another $12,000 or another $14,000 or another whatever to bring it back. And that's not a difficult process. It's just something that has to be built. It is my absolute 1,000% fervent belief that we all deserve and can be financially free, and that you can do this. It's not even that complex. We have simply been, frankly, in my humble opinion, completely tricked, educated, and misdirected to be unconscious consumers. And my fervent belief is, stop buying dumb shit that you don't need with money you don't have, full stop. That one thing with a little bit of education, ta-da! And you can go back and forth a whole bunch of times if you want. It's not that big a deal if you understand that one fundamental principle.